Despite that shocking early season loss to Northern Illinois, Notre Dame still found a way to make it to the national championship game where their comeback attempt fell just short against Ohio State. The national runner-up, the Fighting Irish, are loaded in 2025, but with a much more difficult schedule than they had last year. Can they get back to the national championship game? That's what we're here to talk about today. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. Ready to break down some Notre Dame football as we get closer and closer to spring ball and closer to the start of the college football season. It will be here before you know it. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, home to our weekly newsletters, tons of exclusive content over there to help you get through this offseason. We want you to take advantage of it. We want you to become a member of our GE Nation. We want you to talk football with us year-round. One of the few places in the country and here on YouTube that does that. We want you, again, to be a part of it. So, Notre Dame, again, Marcus Freeman, only a few years into his tenure as head coach of the Fighting Irish, got them to the playoff and finally found a way to win those big games. Everybody wrote Notre Dame off after the loss in Northern Illinois. They didn't lose a single game the rest of the way until that national championship. They made the playoff, beat Indiana, they beat Georgia, beat Penn State in comeback fashion. It's one of the best games of the entire season, in my opinion. And then again, battled back, no quit against Ohio State, but fell just short in their comeback attempt, losing by 11 points. Notre Dame has the coaching staff to make a run again. They've got the roster to make a run again. The schedule, though, does prove to be a little bit tougher. We'll get to that in 1 second. But let's take a look at that roster. You want to win a national title, their first national title since 1988. You got to have the players to do it. And the problem with Notre Dame right now is they've got to find themselves a quarterback. We put a video out just a few weeks ago talking about quarterback battles across the country. Notre Dame's one of the biggest ones we're monitoring. For the 5th straight year, the Fighting Irish will have a new quarterback. 5 straight years, someone different has been under center. And right now, we're leaning towards Steve Angeli, the guy who has the most experience on the roster, came in, led a crucial field goal drive in that game against Penn State. 10 touchdowns, 1 interception in his career with the Fighting Irish. But C.J. Carr is a guy that a lot of people are looking forward to seeing and a guy that could certainly battle Angeli for that starting spot. Both are very capable, but both do not have as much experience as maybe someone would like. The Fighting Irish did not dip into the transfer portal to get someone to come in and compete, just like they did with Sam Hartman a few years ago, just like they did with Riley Leonard. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out on the offensive side of the ball for Notre Dame. The good thing is whoever's at quarterback has weapons. He has guys to lean on. They're once again going to have a very strong offensive line, a very deep, experienced offensive line. They're going to have a very good running back core with Jeremiah Love returning after rushing for over 1,100 yards and 17 touchdowns last year, and Darian Price returning as well, nearly 750 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns. So 2 great running backs. They maybe take the load off of the passing game. Their leading wide receiver in Jaden Greathouse does return, had nearly 600 reception yards last year, and they went into the transfer portal to add a few guys to help out that wide receiver core. Malachi Fields coming in from Virginia after posting an 800-yard season last year. Will Pauling coming in after a decent career with Cincinnati and Wisconsin, had over 400 reception yards last year with the Badgers. But overall, Notre Dame, I think in the passing game, needs more playmakers. This is a team, it's lined up very well against Penn State last year in that Orange Bowl. A team that had 2 great running backs, a team that was strong up front, but both teams lacked outside playmakers. They lacked decent passing threats at wide receiver. They need more of that. Notre Dame needs more of that. And I have faith in Fields and Greathouse and Pauling and maybe someone else that could come into the fold here. But none of these guys are elite. None of these guys, I think, are going to strike much fear into opposing defenses. And, of course, none of that's going to matter if they don't have a competent quarterback to get them the ball. That's why the battle is going to be so interesting as we progress through the offseason. The defense, that's where things get interesting for Notre Dame as well. This is a team that prides itself on defense. Freeman's an amazing defensive-minded coach, one of the best defensive minds in the game. And Notre Dame, for the last few years, has had one of the better defenses in the country. Last year, no exception. But now they lose a lot of that talent. They lose their anchors, guys like Xavier Watts, Howard Cross, Jack Kaiser, all those guys gone from last year's national runner-up squad. They also lose their defensive coordinator in Al Golden, who had done so well these last couple of years with the Fighting Irish. Now Chris Ash comes in as defensive coordinator, a strong defensive mind, has had an up-and-down career everywhere he's been. Horrible time during his head coaching stint with Rutgers, but hoping to come in and keep this Notre Dame defense at the high level they've been used to seeing. He's tasked with a very tough job, tasked with finding new playmakers to replace the leaders that we just mentioned, tasked with keeping Notre Dame up towards the top in terms of rankings with their defense. Defense wins championships. And with an offense that could sputter from time to time, they're going to lean heavily on their defense. If their defense is not up to par and is not up to the standards they expect, it's not going to be a great year for Notre Dame. Still maybe a playoff year, but maybe not a national championship caliber type year. So that's the storyline I'm watching. Yes, they went into the transfer portal, added a handful of key players, guys like Jared Dawson from Louisville, Elijah Hughes from USC. But again, how quickly do those transfers, how quickly do those younger guys fit the mold on Chris Ash's system and learn to play together? That's what we're here to watch out. That's what we're wanting to see from Notre Dame. So a very, very interesting storyline for the Fighting Irish across the board. Who's going to be their quarterback? Who's going to be the playmakers at wide receiver? What does the defense look like after losing so much and having to replace your defensive coordinator? All that being said, this is still, to me, a top 5, at least top 10 team in the country to start the year. No doubt about it. They have one of the best coaches in the game, and he has them ready to play every single game. Now, Notre Dame does have a very difficult schedule, I would say. If you look at last year, the Fighting Irish played only 4 ranked teams in the regular season. Only 4 ranked teams in the regular season. 2 of them were Army and Navy. No disrespect to Army and Navy in the great years that they had, but they never match up well against the Fighting Irish. Never, ever do. Notre Dame beat those 2 teams by a combined score of 100-28. So yes, they were ranked teams. Yes, they do count, but do they really, right? Again, not to take away from Army and Navy, so much respect for both those programs, but they were never going to stand a chance against Notre Dame. The other 2 teams they beat that were ranked were A&M in the season opener and Louisville. That's it. This year, they opened the season on the road at Miami. Last year, opened the season on the road at Texas A&M, got the win. This year at Miami, who will be looking very different as well. Cam Ward is gone. Majority of their offense, from the best offense in the country last year, is gone. So it's going to be whoever's at quarterback for Notre Dame facing off against Carson Beck and this new-look Miami team in a bit of a rivalry game between the Hurricanes and the Fighting Irish. So it should be a very fun game to open up the year and a very good measuring stick for both these programs. Then, throughout the rest of the year, they do host Texas A&M, but a tough team out of the SEC. They go on the road to Arkansas, which will be an intriguing matchup, a game that Notre Dame should win, but maybe closer than they expect. Arkansas is a very odd team this year. They host Boise State, who was a playoff team last year. And yes, I know Ashton Jeanty is gone, but they do return a lot of talent from last year's squad. And they host USC, and they host Syracuse, who won 10 games last year. So this is a manageable schedule. And some of the biggest games and toughest opponents they face do come at home in South Bend. Hosting A&M is big. Hosting Boise State. Hosting USC. Hosting Syracuse. Some of the bigger games they get to host at home. At Miami and at Arkansas are probably the 2 toughest road games they're going to face. But they do have to be mindful of this. This is a much difficult schedule, much tougher schedule than I think they faced last year. And they cannot afford, with this type of schedule, to slip up to a team that's more inferior to them. They can't have another Northern Illinois incident, right? They can't have another Marshall incident. This has happened more than once. So if they're going to lose a game, they need to hope it's to a team like, Miami, A&M, Arkansas, someone that's more higher caliber, and one that maybe wouldn't hurt their resume as much when it comes to playoff time. The Fighting Irish don't have the benefit of playing in a conference. They don't have the benefit of a conference championship game. 2 losses could eliminate them from playoff discussion, depending on how the rest of the country's looking. 1 loss, they're definitely in. We saw that last year. If their 1 loss last year was in Northern Illinois with that weak of a schedule and they could still get in, they're going to be just fine with this schedule. I feel very confident in that. 2 losses where it gets dicey. But regardless, I don't even know if they're going to have 2 losses. Notre Dame is a dang good football team. Yes, they have a few questions on both sides of the ball, but if anyone can fix it, if anyone can answer those questions, it's going to be Marcus Freeman. This is one of the best teams in the country. This is a college football playoff team. This is a national title contender. But will they get there? That is the million-dollar question. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to the expert picks, home to the newsletters, home to tons of exclusive content to help you get through this offseason. We want you to take advantage of it, become a member of our GE Nation, and talk college football with us year-round. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.